Hi, welcome back to Pleased to Dwell, Day 10, Chapter 10, The Expansive Power of a Foreign Collection. Okay, so in the start of Chapter 2 of Matthew, we have the three gifts, I should be careful here, carried by the wise men from the east. We don't know how many wise men they were, not certain of where they come from. Persia is probably as good a suggestion as any. And we've got these three verses here right in the midst of the section. When King Herod heard this, so they reported that they'd seen the star, they'd come to worship, he was deeply disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. So he assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people and asked them where the Messiah would be born. So he's asking the experts, okay, if there's a new king born in Israel, where is he going to be born? In Bethlehem of Judea, they said, because this is what was written. And they go on to quote from Micah chapter 5, verse 2. Okay, so you've got the strange characters coming from the east, and there's all sorts of question marks and confusion with them, but they arrive in the city, they create a stir. Herod summons them and then asks, okay, where's this Messiah going to be born? And the experts in the law know where the Messiah is going to be born. Here's a quote from the book. The Gentiles needed the Jewish scriptures to find the Christ. And they did, as in they did find him. But the Jewish chief priests, although they had the scriptures, stayed in the city of power rather than running to the prophesied king. It's strange, isn't it, that they would hear from foreigners that the king has been born. They would know from the scriptures where he would be born if he were, and yet they don't go find him. That's a strange situation. Now, one thing that tends to come up when people read this section is they say, look, the wise men go and they find the child in a house. Proves it must have been quite a period of time later, because now Mary and Joseph have settled in a house instead of in a stable. We need to address that. I'm not saying that, well, let's see what I am saying. Quote from the book. We do not know that Jesus was born in a stable. What we do know is that Mary and Joseph found no guest room in Bethlehem, as the guest rooms were already being used. The guest room was an addition to a humble house used for out-of-town guests. Perhaps we should shed our community motel image and also shed our thoughts of, well, a shed. As we will see in Luke, when Jesus was born, he was laid in a feeding trough. There, that proves it. A stable. Not so fast, detective. If you were a humble family in Bethlehem, would you entrust your 2 sheep and 1 donkey to a wooden stable standing vulnerably outside the village? Their security arrangements were not quite what we are used to these days. No, the typical arrangement would be to bring in the animals into a lower section of the living quarters for their overnight security and for their family's central heating. Jesus was born to be king, but not in a palace. He was likely born in a peasant's home. And as the camel-carried entourage of foreign dignitaries shuffled in, it became clear that this was not just a king for the Jews. Whatever we make of the wise men from the east, it's a strange story, and there's all sorts of question marks over what was the star and why did they come. And in the book I make some suggestions, but there are certainly others that could be made. Whatever we make of that, what is clear is that the Christmas scene, as Jesus is born and laid in the feeding trough there, probably in a living room in a poor peasant home, once you add in the shepherds and somehow at some point, whether it was at that moment or some time later, once you add in the wise men, it becomes clear that this event is not just a local event. Jesus did not just come for the Jews, he came for the whole world. And as Matthew's gospel goes on, it's going to become increasingly clear that Jesus came also for Gentiles. And so there we have it, the wise men. Now, we've mentioned King Herod in passing. We'll think a little bit more about him in the next video. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for the next video.